Welcome to another edition of the American Car Classics Radio Podcast. I'm Kenny Schofield. Behind the scenes, as always, is helping me out so much, Bryce. Hey, with us on the phone, we've got the John Kraman. I don't even have to say it anymore. He is the voice of Mecum, and we've got the largest circus coming to town soon. John, we're going to talk about that. Welcome to the show.
Hey, man, always a pleasure. Our annual discussion of a very special event going down in Central Florida, just around the corner, brother.
Yeah, what are we like, literally 2.5 weeks away or something before? And you all probably are going to get there, well, your crew set up as it's a circus that comes to town, John. People drop their cars off probably before the new year, right?
Oh, definitely. We've got our first wave of Mecum employees headed over to Osceola Heritage Park there in Kissimmee is December 26th. That is the first wave. Keep in mind, this auction starts January the 2nd. Yeah. The day after New Year's Day, this auction starts. So everything has to be in place. The cars need to be checked in prior to that. So we really need to start kicking this thing hard, literally right after Christmas. And, you know, our staff now celebrating, by the way, 25 years of Mecum Kissimmee, world's largest collector car auction. Pretty cool. But yeah, it's a huge, huge effort. It's very well organized. We've got everybody in place, and we're just waiting to get Christmas checked off, and then it's all about Kissimmee.
Nice. Do they have a little New Year's Eve thing that they do when they do this?
Yeah, it's called work.
Behind the scenes, it isn't all glory. We were talking a little bit about that, John. It is such a big show, and I think that there is some new stuff that's going to be happening in not just the world, but the car world and Mecum's world. I talked with Matt Avery a week ago. I appreciate you setting us up with that. And we talked a little bit about the evolution of all of it and everything else. But we were wanting to know what's new for 2024. Starting with
I think, you know, as we all of us have questions like we do every year. This year's not any different, but we always have questions coming out of a very, very successful year. Now, our fiscal year doesn't end until the end of February. So we won't be putting out on a press release all of our numbers until after 2 more auctions are done. The Kissimmee, Florida auction, of course, coming up early January, and then world's largest antique and vintage motorcycle auction in Las Vegas, also in February. And we put out a very lengthy press release that will detail all of the data, all the auctions, what the total dollar volume was, how many cars we had, what our sell percentage was. I mean, it's very transparent, factual, and we put that information out. So, but all of us are anticipating. We're all anticipating that we're going to see another record year, and literally the eyes of the collector car world will be on Mecum at Kissimmee in January, because it will, not kidding, it will set the stage from an attitude and perception standpoint of what's going to happen for the remainder of the year. This is an event that's always taken very seriously, and it's going to tell us if there's any trends developing, whether the market's up, down, sideways. We don't know. We're going to execute it. We're going to find out.
When I meet somebody and say, do you know about Mecum and Kissimmee, and I get them to go, but they've never been, I urge them to always get there for the opening, because the Mecum family, such a class act. All the time, you've got the music going. You've got Jimmy on the microphone, and we're bringing up veterans, we're bringing up first responders, we're bringing up family, we're bringing up and the crowd. Man, I think that there are hairs standing up on the back of their necks. It is an elation. It's just euphoric to me to watch it happen, and I'm proud to be able to, from the scenes that I get to see it from. But it is such a classy joint, you know, that this thing Mecum does. I love it so much. I wanted to ask, when a guy Googles how do I sell a car at an auction, when they do this, it's not easy. I mean, but you guys make it. Your team Man, we talked, John, that 380 people tour with Mecum to Kissimmee, and that's the people that are behind the scenes. When a guy calls Mecum and gets somebody on the phone, I've had to do this to consign a car. It really is comforting, and it takes all the pressure out of it. You guys are super knowledgeable, sensational.
Well, I'm glad that you noticed that, because it is a massive undertaking to put on as many auctions, 16 auctions a year, over 30,000 cars. As the world's largest, it's an immense undertaking. And of course, every single individual consignor and every single entry deserves to be treated properly, promptly, fairly, all of that. And in today's world, sometimes it's kind of hard to get that kind of service. But if Mecum Auctions is nothing else, and it is many, many things, we like to consider ourselves a consignment machine. And frankly, guys, it has to be that way, because until we get the consignments, nothing happens. We can't work out of an empty cupboard. So over the years, since 1988, that's when Dana Mecum founded this company. We've continued to push and refine and grow, but always trying to make sure that it's a seamless seamless execution of the consignment process. And it really honestly is quite simple. It only takes a matter of a few minutes. The biggest issues, the biggest factors is, what auction do I take it to? Number one. And number two, what's my car worth? Those are the two most common questions. So the consignment staff spends a lot of time answering those questions, counseling and advising a potential consignor, a potential seller, on which auction is going to be the best one for his entry. And there's so many variables that go into that, including where are you located?
You're talking about location, right?
Right. And when do you want to sell the car? Are you looking to maybe keep it for another, summer, or are you looking to sell it right now? All of those are going to factor into it. And then, of course, the big one, as I mentioned, what is my car worth? That is huge. We don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think anybody has a bigger database of comparable sales than Mecum Auctions does. Go to Mecum.com, MECUM.com, and as long as you're a Mecum InfoNet member, it's free. Just put your email address in. You now have access to the backside of the system. It sounds like I'm bragging, but the reality is it is the number one best resource for anybody to be able to use that search engine that we have to look up past sales. It's instantaneous, it's easy, it's seamless, and it has more data, pictures, descriptions, prices than you can possibly imagine. It really helps us. It helps us to talk to a consignor and show them some comparable sales to kind of get them into the ballpark.
Yeah, because you don't want to buy a car that you hope to maybe do a little bit of stuff to and then flip, like a lot of people do. This is their job. I've got one local here that we know that he buys during the year, and he'll do some minimal stuff if he needs to, take him and go to the world's largest auto auction. And he's generally very successful with it. But it's like a gambler in Vegas. You take a risk, but selling at the right place, buying in the right place, buying at the right time, your history is great, because now here, 25 years in one location, that's got a lot of history to it. Some auctions aren't as settled and aren't as established, so maybe that's where some of it goes. But then times, John, they change. These last 4 years, man, have we seen change? The last 8 or 10 years in this market, man, did it blow up. Grand Nationals are starting to slide on a scale now. It's phenomenal to see some of these things that happen.
Yeah, it's been one heck of a ride. I've been lucky enough. I've been full-time with Mecum, part of their management team, since 2006, and I've been the lead TV commentator since 2008. So I'll be starting my 17th year, literally sitting there, calling the action, watching everything, and you begin to develop a real sense of trends, pricing, what might be going on. And I'm going to share a little tidbit with you that I've not shared publicly before, and that is that the demographics, used to be driven by the baby boomers. Those are folks born between 1946 and 1964, roughly. Yeah. But there's a whole new generation of buyer. And here's what I've recently discovered that I will share for the first time. And that is the average age of a buyer at Mecum Auctions. You guys want to take a guess on what that is? Average age of a buyer at a Mecum auction.
42.
I would say 38.
59.
Oh.
And guess what that number was? This is the money shot. We go back 10 years. All right. We go back to 2013. Guess what the average age of a buyer at a Mecum auction was 10 years ago?
70.
59.
Oh, wow.
Does that kind of blow your mind?
Yeah.
This is happening. As the boomers are aging, we all are, but so is everybody else. They're coming up and they're taking the place one by one by one. So I just have to say, as a grizzled old school car guy, the fact that this market is continuing to explode with energy and prices and all kinds of new cars coming out, resto mods, and we're talking about C10 trucks and Broncos and some of these other phenomenons in the marketplace. There's going to be no end in sight for the love affair of guys and gals in America, in particular, that love these cars and want a cool car as part of their life. It is not going to age out. It's not going to gray out. We're seeing zero indication of that over a very long period of time.
That is very exciting, John. And before we go too far into the future, I just want to ask you real quick if anything stood out to you about the last couple of Mecum auctions in Chattanooga and in Vegas.
Well, Chattanooga, look, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here in a second, John. But what I want to do is I spoke to you. I called you one day. I think I was in Chattanooga or right before it. And you said, Kenny, I'm at SEMA. You got to come out here. And you said, we have a Mecum auction like the next week. So we're doing a booth and I'm here and it's a fabulous thing. Here again, the power of suggestion, John. I'm going to Mecum next year. I'm driving Lucy out all the way from Florida to Vegas. And it's going to be it's later next year, which is a little bit bummer for me, but I'm going to go and do that. And I've been to Vegas. I love it out there. But I want to talk more. Look, we're going to go on a quick break. When we get back, though, we're going to keep talking, John, and we're going to find out about the SEMA and Mecum connection. We'll be right back. Welcome back. That is Greg Billings, man. I get to see Greg sing his butt off December 22nd. That's going to be this Friday. I'm going over to Madera Beach in Pinellas County where I grew up, and I get to hang out with Greg for a little while and celebrate before Christmas. With us still on the phone is John Kraman. John, I appreciate you hanging on more than you probably ever know. When we left for the last segment, we said we were going to try and talk a little bit about Chattanooga. I don't know numbers and all this, but my question for Chattanooga, as I'm a huge fan of the Chattanooga Motorcar Festival, is, and I said I want to get you out there one year, but was it good for Mecum?
That's an interesting event. Yes, it is, but it's really more to support the Chattanooga Motorcar Festival, as you said. We just want to be a part of that event. It is a very charitable, high-energy, star-studded, celebrity-filled event. It's a relatively small auction in the scheme of what Mecum Auctions does. A couple of days, I think we do just a little over $13 million in sales, which sounds like a lot, but in the big scheme of what we typically do at a Mecum auction, it's on the, it's on the smaller side. But it also helps us just to go ahead and rub shoulders with so many of the folks in the collector car community, because that part of the country, Tennessee is one of the A-list collector car havens of the world, and the folks that put on that event are just so enthusiastic and so generous and put on one heck of a wild party. So for us to be a part of it, it's really kind of a no-brainer.
Byron DeFore and the DeFore
Awesome.
brothers, these guys, man, they are the epitome of class. And when you add Corky Coker out there and the people that they bring in and the concourse to elegance, I am blown away. They had the Corvette concepts out there. They've had, I mean, you name it. And now we're getting Foose, we're getting Ray Evernham, Wayne Carini is a regular there. These people come, I don't know about their paid potential for that, but they are coming out because it is the place to go and see. He's got the Targa 66 racing program out at his racetrack, The Bend. There's just so much phenomenal stuff I could talk about, but the one thing that the DeFore brothers that stands to me is what you said, the charitable contributions to what they do. And you're a guitar guy, John. And as you know, I wasn't able to make it to the Chattanooga auction. It was not televised, by the way. No.
And of course, the B-52s headlined it there. One of my favorite groups of all time. Whose isn't? How many more years are they going to be performing? I mean, they got to be well into their 70s.
I believe they announced that they're done. I believe that this was like one of their last shows. So it was incredible to have them out there and do. And this is just the type of thing that he's doing. But for him to establish with the Erlanger Society to try to build knowledge, and Brian Johnson and everything else for dementia and all of this that goes on, it is. I'm so proud to be associated with that as well. When I called you from Chattanooga, you were in Vegas and you were doing SEMA. What were you doing out at SEMA for Mecum?
Well, first of all, SEMA is a massive event. It really is sort of a showcase for everything in the automotive aftermarket. Has been since the early 1960s. Interesting that it's a trade show, not open to the public. It is a trade show where vendors go and display their wares in hopes of getting large wholesale orders. I mean, it is a serious business from that standpoint. But then on the other hand, it's evolved into a literally rolling showcase of hundreds, if not thousands, of cars that have equipment on them that are being debuted at SEMA. So there's a ton of custom show cars, again, celebrities all over the place. And Mecum is there. We're a formal exhibitor. We're a part of the event. We usually bring about a half a dozen cars to put on display, and we sit there all day long, and we talk about auctions and cars, and again, we talk about values. And I'll give your listeners just a little bit of a tip. I mentioned it was a trade show, not open to the public, which it's not, but there is a huge outdoor display area. This is at the Las Vegas Convention Center, out in the main display area out in the front, which represents probably about a quarter to a third of the total footprint of the big SEMA event. That is free. That's open to the public. Nobody knows about it. You can literally walk in and spend an entire day looking at cars, talking to vendors, seeing celebrities. You don't even have to buy a ticket. You don't need a badge. You just literally walk in. There's no way that they can patrol the people coming in and out with badges. Now, inside the building, a different story. Yeah. So guess where we park? We're outside in the outdoor display
I love
area.
that.
And the weather's always beautiful.
Without a doubt. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It's just part of the country that is so beautiful. I'd love to know that you're outside for that because the crowds are huge. Where was F1 this year related to all of that? Was that afterwards?
It was, it's funny you mention that because it was literally the order of sequence of events in November, starting early November, was week 1, SEMA, week 2, Mecum auctions, Las Vegas, at the same location SEMA was at, the Las Vegas Convention Center, and then week 3, the F1 debut in Las Vegas. I confess, as soon as the auction was over with, I hightailed it out of Las Vegas and did not get caught up in the whole F1 thing. I needed to get home. We've got so much going on. What I'd love to see in the race, of course, but I just didn't want to get caught up in all of the gridlock. But you know what? They freaking pulled it off.
They
Hats
did.
off to those guys for taking a street course, closing down, downtown Vegas and making it into a competitive race course. And next year, maybe we'll see if the ticket prices come down a bit and I'm able to kind of wrangle my way in to see it.
They came down for Miami after the first year, so I expect it to be more reasonable for year 2 in Las Vegas.
Good news.
Yeah,
Good news.
Bryce was all blown away on the P1 practice where the manhole cover got sucked up by the bottom of the car from all the downforce. That was just an eye-opener for everybody, I think.
Yeah, Ferrari's still looking for somebody to foot the bill on that very expensive repair, which was not their fault in any way, shape, or form. That's interesting.
Didn't seem fair to me, but what do I know, right?
No, right.
They actually got penalized for that. They didn't do anything wrong.
So Mecum goes out 2 times a year, John, and does a motorcycle auction and then does a car auction later in the year?
Yep. 2 completely different times of the year, 2 completely different venues. In late January, we're at South Point Hotel and Casino with the world's largest vintage motorcycle auction. That runs January 24th through the 27th. By the way, 2 days of that will be televised. I'll be part of that announce team on Motor Trend Plus, our streaming partner.
Yep.
It won't be on the linear network on Motor Trend TV on cable like our auctions are, like the car auctions are. But the cycle auction will be streamed. We'll have a full crew on board for that. And that's a lot of fun. And then in the fall, we go to Vegas and we have a collector car auction. Again, one of 16 on our schedules, trying to make sure that we cover all the regions in the country. Very important that we make sure that we have a location that's convenient for anybody that wants to consign, sell, buy, or even spectate at a Mecum auction. Usually not more than a couple 100 miles away from anywhere you want to put your finger on the map.
Isn't that true? I mean,
yeah.
Now, John, you and Kenny have cars, and a lot of people have cars. I'm in the market of those who have yet to buy their first classic car. And I wanted to get your thoughts about something, which is, I know there's always cars that go for way under value. And I think these are probably great moments for somebody like myself who just want to get into this, don't have a ton of money to throw at it, but want to start somewhere. So I wanted to get any tips or thoughts you had on somebody like me. Are there certain days that you want to watch out for? Are there certain, give us your best tips on how to get a great value at a Mecum auction.
love that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's really important and really critical because unlike some of the other what I call boutique auction companies that are out there that specialize in cars on the high end, the high-profile cars, but might only have 100 or 200 cars at an auction.
Right.
Our auctions, 1,000 cars at a Mecum auction is considered to be kind of a small auction, and then anything over 1,000 is, starting to get bigger, obviously. But the a general rule, early days of the auction, we call it inventory management, but the early days of the auction is where we have a tendency to put the more affordable vehicles. And here's how we do it. We will actually have a fee structure. The fees to conduct business at the auction will be lower on the earlier days. So if let's say you've got a $20,000 or under car, you're not going to go on the big Friday or the big Saturday with that car. Number one, it's going to be expensive to run it. It's going to be an expensive entry fee, $1,500 as an example,
yes, sir,
versus maybe a $250 or $350 entry fee on an early day. That's intentional, and that's to make it affordable and appealing to both a buyer and a seller. Look, Kissimmee as an example, 13 days straight of auction action. 13 days. Nobody is going to sit there from the early in the morning until late at night for 13 days straight without a single day off. So what we do is where we put the inventory, if somebody's got 20, 15, 10 grand to spend, they're going to be there on the first couple of days of the auction. If they want to stick around and enjoy the higher price stuff, absolutely love to have them. But the reality is we do inventory management. And of course, all the inventory, we post it, Mecum.com. People will look in advance, entries, lots of interest as we call it, lots being a entry. We call that a lot. So there's cars / lots of entry of interest to people. They look at it in advance. They'll print it out. They'll put it on a clipboard. They'll come out to the auction a day or two early. They'll look at the cars that they're interested in, and fingers crossed, hopefully they'll be taking a purchase home. So that's step one. Make sure, don't think you're going to come there on a big Friday or a big Saturday and find your affordable dream car. Not going to happen.
Right.
But it will on an early day. And then the second thing is we all have to have expectations on what we realistically can afford. To think that I'm going to pick on say a 70 Plymouth Roadrunner. I'll just pick on that.
Okay.
To think that that car is going to go underneath the radar, a nice one, is going to go underneath the radar and be a steal for somebody is pretty unrealistic. It's not going to happen. But how about this? How about a 1970 Plymouth Satellite four-door sedan?
Huh?
Maybe a 1 or a 2 owner, little 318, gold or green would be the typical colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
That instead of a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 price tag, might have a $10,000 or $15,000 price tag. Same platform, same basic car, obviously completely different personality. So what I'm saying is, need to look at four doors. It used to be we could look at a station wagon, but they're up now.
Yeah.
And of course, convertibles and 2 doors are at the top, top level. So some people have to start looking at vehicles that may not be as desirable as they want, but as a way to kind of dip your toe in the hobby and see if owning an older car, maintaining it, the factors that get involved in taking care of the care and feeding of a vintage car, it's a nice way to do it if you're really on a budget. But honestly, to think that anybody's going to go to a major auction like a Mecum auction and get a steal when you've got roughly a third of the bidders are dealers looking for deals.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay what the car's worth, up to about maybe 80%. But here's the other side of it. All the cars look good on TV. They all look shiny and nice.
Yeah.
But when you get up to a car and you look at it up close, you begin to see the difference. Now, those of us that rate cars for condition know that the difference, say, between a number 1 and a number 2 quality car, from 10 feet, you can't tell them apart. But up close you can. But a number 1 car is going to be worth double the value of a number 2 car. I'm talking rough numbers.
People
trying to figure out what condition category a car is in is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, so people buy on the internet, John. This is something that I didn't like at first, but I've learned to really love it. That a lot of them have prospectors that have come in and are looking the car over to make sure that they're good. There are people that will grade a car for a potential buyer that can't make it to the show.
Right.
We've done it for clients before.
Yep. They actually do. And we actually, the Mecum absentee bidder team, whether it be an internet bidder or a telephone bidder, we have lots of both. We, Mecum staff, and I've done them myself, will actually do previews of cars of interest to those bidders. Usually it's done the day before the car is auctioned off. We walk around it with our cell phone. We answer direct questions. We're even taking pictures of. They say, well, I want a picture of the data plate, or, let me look at the right side of that engine. The pictures that's online aren't that good. All the way to actual, describing the cars and answering questions directly. That does two things. Number one, it helps a potential bidder to understand the condition of the car. But just as importantly, it develops a rapport between, this is presuming it's going to be a phone bidder, not an internet bidder, because they're not talking to anybody on the internet. But if they're a phone bidder, they've already established a relationship with that, between themselves.
Yeah.
So when it comes time to get on the phone, they've already talked, they've already got a relationship, they can get right down to business. I will say that since COVID, our internet bidding participation has gone from somewhere between 3 to 5% to in the 25% participation. And it has stayed there as we've eased off of the COVID thing, which tells us we're doing something right in regards to still holding great, exciting live auctions, but we're also running internet capability, online bidding at a high level as well, as opposed to putting all of our eggs in one basket or the other. We got all the bases covered, and I think that's a big part of our success over the last couple of years.
Now, John, is that what's known as the bid goes on that you're talking about, or is that when the auctioneer is live?
We're going to talk about that, but he's talking about a preview before the auction. That car is going to go on a Tuesday, so on that Monday, Mecum has an employee that's going to go out, call and talk and do all this and set him up for that. But the bid goes on at the end. There's a time frame where everybody's car has to be out of the lot. They have to go home. So a seller, if the car is in there and he has a couple people on the hook trying to do a little bit of bidding, he's going to succumb to them. If he wants that car gone, other than paying to trailer it back home, he's going to make a deal. And this separates your auction, John, from others, because you give a buyer and a seller an opportunity to sell it in a lot more than just 3 minutes.
Right. So if a vehicle doesn't sell, keep in mind, Mecum's claim to fame, the reason we get great cars in huge quantities is our sellers have the option of putting a reserve or a protected price. The bulk of our consignments have a reserve. So not every car is going to sell. In fact, we run anywhere between 60 to 70% sell-through ratio. That's a dynamic of what we do. So if a vehicle doesn't sell on the block, that doesn't mean it's over with. Now it goes over to the bid goes on. They have the ability for the next 21 days, 3 weeks, to continue to advance bids, even after we're gone home. If somebody sees it a week later, they can call and say, hey, is this car still available? Yes, it is. And we can make an attempt to put a deal together. Approximately, you ready for this, guys?
Yeah.
10% of all the vehicles that Mecum Auction sells are sold via the bid goes on process after they leave the block.
That is incredible too, because I just love that it goes when it's on the block. It's so fast, and if you're not ready, you're not a veteran doing this. You could miss it, and if you're scratching your head, you could buy it. They warn you about that too. I saw a 68 in July in Orlando. I saw, well, it was this year. It was in Kissimmee again. I saw a 68 Dodge Dart convertible sell, John. I think it was 16 grand or something, and I was really blown away because I'd looked at that car and it was clean. There are cars that come in at no reserve, NR. We see it on the windshields. Mm-hmm. I've seen them. I know, John, you got to be looking and saying this they've got 80 grand in this build and it just brought 25. It does happen. I think for me, the best way to find a deal at an auction is to be there. I want to preview maybe what I was looking at, but walk the line. And if you see something that maybe you weren't even really interested, but it's not doing well, throw your hat in. Maybe you come away with a steal. Maybe you get the bidding excited enough to where the person that really did want it is going to end up paying a little bit more and that satisfies the seller, which maybe says, hey, I want to bring one back next year and try it again. Y'all did me great. I just love the camaraderie of it all. Your team is everywhere. When somebody's staring at something a long time, I think somebody just pops out of a cover and they say, hey, can we help you with that? It is phenomenal. So I love that about Mecum. Real quick, John, you've got time for one more segment?
Sure.
Okay,
absolutely.
We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some iconic cars that have done some damage in the financial world to collector cars. The American Car Classics. We'll be right back.
We can live with it.
Man, I can let it play forever. John, I know you're a big music guy. I hope you like him too. We love to bring him to America. For those that don't know, I've had a relationship with Greg Billings for over 40 years. And I love his music so much. I was mentioning to you earlier, John, I spoke that you're a guitar guy. I took a guitar. I take one everywhere with me. I took one to the first year Chattanooga Motorcar Festival, and I had people sign it that are no longer with us, Jim Pace, stuff like this. And I'm going to present this next year at Chattanooga to have Byron auction off to go proceeds to the charities that he does. I hope that it brings $5,000. I would be tickled pink. Linda Vaughn, Miss Hurst, she told me, when you sell that, I want to be there. I'm going to help you promote it. And every year I go back and see her. She's like, is a guitar going this year? And she remembers me. It is incredible. And Brian Johnson signed it. I mean, so many people did. And I've got a layout with a sheet on it that's going to be going. And I'd love to be able to contribute what I did for that. It's going to be great. So
nice.
I wanted to talk about a couple of iconic cars, John.
All right.
Stuff that as I watch video, maybe I didn't catch that part of the auction. Maybe I didn't, all these things. But there were two that really caught my eye One of them is the 51 Merc. This is George Barris's build.
Oh, yeah.
And this car went through, I think, a restoration somewhere in the 09 area, but still presented well. Somebody even built a clone of this car, but it has really, there's a name for this car, isn't there?
Hero Hada Merc.
The Hero Hada Merc. And it is incredible. It is a timeless piece. It's like a fancy watch, isn't it? I mean,
it's, in Mecum, we do, over the years, we've done, several 100,000 great cars, but there are really a few that really stand out. The Bullet Mustang is one. The Hero Hada Merc is the other. It is probably the best known, most legendary, most landmark, and the most influential custom car of all time. It began life as a 1951 Mercury. The Barris brothers, back in the early 50s, completely did this car into what's now known as sort of the lead sled formula. It hadn't been invented up to that point, and this car was noteworthy. It was used in movies in the 1950s. Then it fell into disrepair, ended up on a used car lot. A guy bought it in the late 50s, drove it for a couple $100, drove it to the high school, had it his whole entire life, decided at some point that he was going to go and have it restored, which he did. He got a hold of our friend, yours and mine, Wayne Carini, Chasing Classic Cars, and said, Wayne, when I'm gone, I want you to represent this car and sell it.
Wow.
He passed away. Wayne consigned it on behalf of the family to Mecum. We were expecting to get probably somewhere in the $600,000 to $800,000 range for it. They would have been happy with that. $1 million was sort of the high target. Fast forward to today, it brought double that. It hammered for a couple $1 million, literally changing the life of this guy's family. They're just regular people. And, that's a life-changing, I've obviously taken a long story and condensed it to, a short version. But to see the sellers there, to be involved with Wayne, I was a big part of the promotion of that car. I've known about that car my entire life. And now it's in one of the most prestigious collections in the world. It's at Bo Bachman, who's the owner of Galpin Ford, world's largest Ford dealership out in San Fernando Valley in California. He's got a private collection.
Wow.
And it's there with many other really cool high-profile cars. And that was amazing. That was an amazing, one of the 5 or 6 top Mecum moments of all time.
Bryce and I were brainstorming, if you will, before the show, and we talked about, I said, a future show, I want to do stuff like movie cars. Where are they now? And Kit and things like this, the Bandits car. And he said, unfortunately, Kenny, so many of them are just sitting on lots rusting. Isn't it crazy how something so... Barris saw, they saw something in this that made them want to do what they did, and that it can get lost is incredible.
Well, it was, like a lot of these guys, it was an evolution. Times were changing. We went from the cars of the late 40s, the early 1950s. Cars were just really kind of considered transportation. And the first wave of personalizing cars was customizing. Well, by the time we got into the 50s, mid-50s, the manufacturers were starting to make some pretty cool cars. By the time we got into the 60s, the muscle car craze kicked in. So these cars were it was kind of a been there, done that thing. But, everything comes full circle. Fashion, things continue to go in and out of fashion. And the same thing happens with cars, and the fact that so many custom cars that are still being built today, you can draw a direct line back to the original, back to and arguably the best looking, the nicest proportioned. And, it was a landmark car. It's on the National Historic Registry. It spent time in the Glass House down at the Mall of Washington, D.C. This is the real deal. This is a very important part of American automotive history. And, needless to say, if I'm sounding very excited about it, I am. As a part of this little thing, I got to I didn't drive the car, but I actually sat in the car and went for a ride. Wayne was driving the car, Wayne Carini. And I'm sitting there, listen to this, guys. I'm sitting there looking at the dashboard while we're cruising down the road at per the Cadillac 331 cubic inch engine that powers this thing, the per the Cadillac engine through glass packs. And I'm looking at the original pinstriping, and not been redone, done by none other than Von Dutch, his signature down there on the glove box door.
Yeah, I was wondering about
from
that.
The early 50s.
Wow.
When I saw that in the photo on the dashboard there.
So cool.
Yeah.
It is so cool, John. And I gotta. Okay, I'm gonna break script for a second. After this long, John, you've seen every pretty girl undress. I mean, what? And I said to Bryce, I said, I believe that I've learned enough that John's favorite GM color is that 68, 69 Camaro blue. Is that about right? I've heard you mention that you just love that blue.
Well, if you're talking about Le Mans blue.
The Le Mans blue.
Yeah, obviously that's a great color, but I have to say a couple of other colors are right up there. And I mention this in the show from time to time as not somebody says, no, he said this about. So there's three colors. There's the blue that we just talked about. There's a 1965 color only. It was used for Pontiacs and Chevys, a different name. Chevy called it Evening Orchid. Pontiac called it Iris Mist. And it's kind of a silvery lavender color that just glows. Stunning color. And then the third color is a Pontiac only color for the first year, 67, Verdero Green. And it's a deep metallic green that John DeLorean, and we all know who he is. Yep. His wife actually saw and told John, this was at a cocktail party, she was looking at an ashtray. Remember the ashtrays, those big square ashtrays were the dark green glass?
Yeah.
Bryce, you don't remember those, but
no, I do.
You might.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember avocado refrigerators.
Avocado. Yeah. Anyway, so those are three of my favorite colors. But the nice thing about colors, it's like automotive design. It's subjective. Everybody has their own idea and what they like. I know what makes me happy.
Do you think a resto mod or a car that's been redone is it great to try to keep an original color or it doesn't matter?
At that point, guys, it really doesn't matter. And I really want to give a shout out to the current craze of taking vintage cars and putting all kinds of modern mechanical. It's taking and putting really a second wind into vintage cars, giving them a second life and a second audience. Now, what's not happening is people that are taking, ironclad investment grade collectibles, cars that still have their original engines, as an example, and yanking those out. They're taking projects and then they're not even starting with any original parts. I mean, you can build a Mustang, you can build a Camaro, you can build a Bronco, literally out of parts without using any original parts, including body shells and chassis. Yeah. You name it, you can get it.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of those. Do they personally resonate with me? Probably not. I'm more of an original car sort of a guy, but I understand the popularity. I embrace it, I encourage it, and I'm all in favor of it. And they bring wild, crazy money at auction, as we know.
I own about a dozen cars, John, and over the 12 years of me owning this auto repair shop, Dolphin Auto, I have been blessed to be able to pick up a lot of great deals, one way or the other, and they all are project cars, but two that are pretty cool. The 70 Monte Carlo, it's a 1 year only forest green, and I have just bought a 86 Corvette, and I am going to countersink the floors. I'm going to stretch the frame 20 inches. I'm going to put the Corvette, everything on the 70 Monte Carlo and go with a twin turbo small block. There's so much room in that engine bay, but I'm going to have the Corvette dash fabbed into that. The Corvette seats can sit me up high enough in the Monte Carlo because the floors will be countersunk to where the frame is hidden, and it just sits naturally, no bags, sitting right. And I'm really excited about that because I'm a first-gen Monte Carlo guy. I've asked you a lot about it, but the Monte Carlo market is always been coming up for the last 5-10 years. It's been building, and it's starting to get really good. I'm really proud of that one, too. My other one is a 65 442 F85. The owner was doing a 9-year resto in his garage. He had a full-time job, and he passed away during COVID. I met his dad. We've become friends, and he sold me this car for $13,000. He already has its original second owner from Melbourne, Florida, which is right up the road from me. It was originally red. It's black now. He's already done the mini tubs. He's got the flat firewall. He's got stainless steel LS exhaust, full LS in it. He put a Tremec 5-speed in it, and he didn't cut the floor yet. Now, it was an automatic car, and I'm not much of a clutch guy because as I get older, my knees are going to go and I'm going to be stuck. But would I was going to do some crazy, I'll explain that later, but I want to, would you keep it a stick shift, John? Would you go with a Tremec 5-speed versus an automatic? Because I say it's going to limit the buyer. It's going to limit it. There's just no ways. I mean, you get a girl, people want to buy and they can't drive a stick. Millennials can't. And people are telling me the real car guy that's going to buy that car, he's going to drive a stick.
It's, when you're building a resto mod, there are no rules at all.
None.
You got to go. Now, if you're building it to flip,
Yep.
That's a different story. If you're building it to suit your personal vision of how it should be, then you just do it the way that you want it.
This one's for sale.
My preference is always going to be for a manual transmission, but the market has generally told us with resto mods that the buyers generally prefer automatic transmissions for the ease of driving. Now, if it's a muscle car from the 1960s, early 1970s, it's always going to bring more with a 4-speed and substantially higher.
Killing me.
Always. But those cars typically are not driven. They're collected. And they're a lot more macho cool with a manual than with an automatic. But if it's a car they're going to drive, whether it be a modern muscle car or whether it be a vintage car that's going to be resto modded, I would probably say that in the 90, I'm shooting from the hip, 90% of the time, the buyer's going to want an automatic transmission. I don't happen to fall in that 90%, but that's what the buyers want.
Okay, and you're the guy to ask because you see it, and when we watch a car go through the auction block, we're surprised sometimes at the numbers. This iconic, getting back to my list of iconic cars in Houston, and you turned me on to the YouTube video, and it really does says it all. In Houston this year, Mecum represented a 1957 Bel Air that has a story like no other. This thing was just a small block, 270 horsepower, 3-speed manual. It was a nothing car, nothing special other than it was, this car. You want to tell the story a little bit about what happened to this car?
Every once in a while, first of all, so much is about the story. The hardware is one thing, but then there's the story. With this car, it's really all about the story. So if we go back to the 1920s, Lakewood, Georgia, General Motors built an assembly plant, and they had that assembly plant, and they ran it all the way into the 1990s. Then they closed it. It got obsolete. It was an old plant.
Right.
So what they decided to do is they decided to take a 1957 Chevy Bel Air that had somehow popped up that was actually built at this factory back in 1957, and they were going to disassemble it and run it through the factory, right through the original assembly line, as the very last car to be built in the 1990s before they shuttered this plant. And on top of that, General Motors decided to have a contest and award this car via contest to one of the employees. So everybody really got on board with it. Fast forward to today, this car has become legendary for the fact that it's the newest, I'm paraphrasing, the newest 1957 Chevy on the planet. And we know how hot over the years 57 Chevys have got.
Yep.
They're an icon from that era. 2 or 3 cars represent that era perfectly. The 57 Chevy's one, the Tri-5 T-Birds are another one, and probably a 59 Cadillac's the other one. Those would be, in my opinion, the top 3.
Okay.
Anyway, $250,000 when the gavel dropped. I'm going to call it a world record for a non-fuel injected, non-convertible, non-resto modded 57 Bel Air. There's no hard data to prove that, but I've been saying it for the last 3 or 4 months, and nobody's come out and said, well, no, one sold for more than that, X amount of time ago. So I'm going to say that was a world record price, and I think it's an indicator that a lot of times the story sells the car, and it also says that the market for 1950s automobiles is still obviously very high for somebody to pay that much money for a 57 Chevy. It wouldn't bring half that. It would probably bring a third of that had it not had the story.
Yeah, I own a 57 Chevy. That's one of my project cars. Yeah, it was an original 6-cylinder car. The body is super solid. I, in fact, have a friend who's got a 57 Chevy, and it's got not an Art Morris, but a something underneath it, and he hates it. It sits too low. So we're getting ready to swap out this, but I'm going to resto mod mine because I just believe that's where they are, and I'd like to keep this one. But it's a beautiful car. But who else can say that they have a 30-year-old 1957 Chevy? That's so beautiful, the story behind it, and the story really does sell that car. Like a lot of them have great stories. I think it's important. Some of the sellers make sure that when you're looking at that car sitting out waiting to go across the block, they make sure that you can see the story. They've got their banners up, their signs, whatever. And if there's some lineage to it or something, they want you to know that that you're not just passing by another car that looks like three others, but this one is iconic in that own self. So
right. No, that's and I think it's important for all of us that are enthusiastic about cars that have a role in the collector car world to make sure that these stories continue to stay with the vehicles and to move forward with the cars, but at the same time, not just taking every supposed tidbit from the past and claiming it as true. Whether or not it is true, there's always a question mark. So whenever there's ironclad, documented, right back to day one, significant stories, like you pick two perfect examples, the Hero Honda Merc and the Lakewood 57 Chevy Bel Air are two perfect examples of no question mark that a very significant history is involved in these cars. It pays off on the auction block.
And the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? I mean, there's no doubt about it. Well, right. John, listen, I've kept you a long time, and I really love and appreciate you for doing that with us. We are so blessed to have a relationship with you. We learn more every time we talk about this crazy growing world of auctions and classic cars and the people within those groups. And I love the new blood that comes in, the new money that comes with it. And I love that people are able to take these things and treat them like family. And if they haven't been treated well, like a dog chained up out back, they bring them in and give them a bath and fresh coat of paint, and they just make something out of them because they see something in that car. I think that cars today, although we were looking at some stuff that's going, some of these, there's not a Copa, but a Yanko, 21 Yanko Camaro going through and stuff. And certainly the name of Yanko makes that Camaro special. But cars, and just back then, man, it's like a guy building a craftsman house. There's just something about when you sit and stare at it. It's sexy as hell to think, man, what were they doing to dream this up and all? So I just love that part of it all.
It drives the market. That appreciation, you don't even necessarily have to have been there. That appreciation for the simplicity of the design, the clean looks, especially when we start really, I always say that kind of the golden era of the automobile design really is the mid 50s through the early 70s. I think that's got all the bases covered. And I think that genre of car, which is very popular in today's collector car world, is always going to be legendary generations from now. Without a doubt. All right, John, let's do this one more time. Mecum Auctions is coming to Osceola and Heritage Parkway in Kissimmee, Florida, January 2nd through the 14th. 4,000 plus cars. That's the number y'all like this year? Yep. Over that. 4,300 as of yesterday. Bang on, man. I love that. 43. And they cram them through. It's an exciting event. If anybody is in the area and can get there, I urge you, do it. We're going to be giving a couple of passes away for the auction on our next segment, and this is going to be our closeout show of the year. So, John, have a blessed and Merry Christmas. I appreciate you so much. I hope you have a safe trip down here, and we'll see you in the new year. Hey, man, really appreciate your enthusiasm and support for Mecum. Yeah. We will see you in Florida very soon. Take care, John. God bless. This is American Car Classics. We'll be right back. You know the routine. Don't you dare take it out on me. If you're sitting around, you got nothing to do. Shake a leg, come along with me. You take one step, you take two steps, you take three, and get on up. Down south, Alligator Alley, there lived a chick named Sleazy Sally. Those are the words that Greg Billings wrote for that song. It brings a smile to my face. The stories I could tell you off the air about the crazy
stuff that's happened in some crazy clubs watching that band, man. This is the American Car Classics radio program. I'm Kenny Schofield, and with me is the producer, Bryce Shanka. We've had a great show today. I'm so appreciative for Mecum Auctions, for David Morton, who is the managing production manager for Mecum Auctions, and him turning us on to John Kraman. And John and I have become friends that we can call and text and talk to each other many, many times during the year about stuff that's going on in the car world, personal stuff and everything else and all that. Last week we were blessed to have on our show Matt Avery, this kid who John has taken under his wing. I say kid. He's, I guess, early 40s right now. We had him on our show last week. Bryce, he was a plethora of knowledge. This guy was phenomenal, huh?
Yeah, that was really amazing. That was one of my favorite interviews that we've done since I came on with the show.
Yeah, keep it like that. He gave us, Bryce, he gave us a list of 5 cars. And we thought, well, top 5 Camaros. I was nowhere close.
Well, we were originally going to ask him top 5 Chevy muscle cars.
Right.
And then he said, can it be the top 5 Camaros? And when he said that, I was like, how in the world
are you going to get 5?
Yeah. I just said that, and boy, he had it laid out and he didn't seem to be referencing too many notes. I think that was all just coming off the cuff.
I have never heard of a Black Panther.
Yeah, I don't think too many Americans have, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Canadian thing. And it's funny, after we taped that, I was watching Motor Trend, and they have one of the shows they do is a shop in Canada. And I was watching all these Canadians. And of course, as everybody knows, I'm also a part-time bartender, and I put Motor Trend on at the bar.
I love that.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to love it. But when the show was going on, I turned to my folks at the bar. I said, has there ever been a Canadian car? And nobody could think of it. And they're like, nope. They just kind of take ours. And that's what they drive.
Yeah.
So
incredible. So Matt gave us this list of 5. His list. I'm going to say his list. Bryce, was it? I mean, these are his top 5, or he believes through data, and because Matt has written a couple books. His latest one is specifically about Chevy muscle.
Yeah, and it goes deeper than that. When I was going through the photos to put into that episode, there were several, maybe even a couple dozen of the photos I came across had Matt up on a ladder taking a picture of the car itself. Like, he is deeply and personally involved in that topic, and it shows.
I said that John Kraman has taken under his wings. Matt's been working for Mecum for about 5 years. I met him 4 years ago when John says his relationship with Matt really started to blossom, and he let us know that David Morton is the guy that brought Matt on. So kudos to David for this great non-drafted find.
Yeah, definitely. And so folks really should go and watch that episode last week. That was one of the highlights of the channel. And if you are into cars as much as we are, you're going to find it very interesting.
Yeah. And you're going to stay tuned, because we're going to do a trivia question that somebody's going to win 2 passes to the Kissimmee Mecum auction in January, and we're going to use a trivia question from that show. So I want everybody to stay tuned and have a chance at that. How you respond is you get on to our website, to our email address, American Car Classics. Bryce, I'm going to mess that up. American Car Classics at yahoo.com.
Well, I'm going to put the number up.
Yeah, the phone number.
And let's see if we can get people to leave a voicemail or send a text message to that number.
Okay.
Let's try it that way. But
all right.
I was thinking, please give us the number 3 car on Matt's list from last week's episode about Camaros. And whoever gets that in first wins the tickets? Is that how we're gonna do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, the first one that gives a text or a voicemail, I'll make sure the messages are cleared off from Tech Talk stuff that's come in, and that we're ready to go on that. And the sooner you answer it, the sooner your chance is to get in there and say that you're the winner, and I'll call you, or Bryce will call you, and we'll tell you how to pick those tickets up in Kissimmee. It's going to be a great event, as John said, 4,300 cars this year. I don't know if that tops it, but that's got to be pushing it. 13 days in one location to sell 4,000 plus cars. That is incredible. What goes on, Bryce? We've been able to go a couple times and really see the hustle and bustle and the show, and it is
and even
poetry in motion.
Even for someone who has no intention or ability to buy one of the cars, if you love classic cars or even modern cars, sports cars, any kind of automobile, it's basically a car show.
It is a car show. This is a spectator's dream to have this many cars in this pristine of condition in one location. The weather this time of year, maybe a little bit cold for some, maybe a little bit warm for some. It is great. And it even rains a couple times, but everything is 95% of it is indoors. And they have Kissimmee, Mecum, man. It is a show in itself. But as a spectator sport, this is easily one of the top ones to go to. Tickets are $20. That's so cheap. I think that they have quit advanced sales right now. You can still buy a bidder's pass when you get there if you think, hey, I am a guy that can get on, and as John talked about, pick up one of those deals that you brought up, Bryce, that makes it to where,
And they make it easy. I'm sure if you walk in as a spectator and you decide you want to bid on something, I'm sure there's a way to go and get that upgraded to bidder status.
You can buy a bidder's pass even while the auction's going on.
But just the way they have the cars on display and all the halls, and they put so much effort into the visual experience when you're walking through. Remember last year they had that whole collection of the wing collection with the Roadrunners and Challengers and whatnot, and they were all in a circle.
And they were. I moved a couple flags out of the way, but it was beautiful. Now, you got in there and you really started shooting some great footage of that. That brings me back to Matt Avery. This guy is an accomplished photographer, and you saw him up on a ladder trying just to get that perfect shot of when we met him, David Morton had said, I want to do a photo shoot on you, and I want to, show about the show in Mecum magazine. And I was so impressed with that. And Matt is the guy that he turned me on to, and we hung out for a while and we started talking. And when I got Matt on the phone and said, this is what we do, he said he remembered me right away. I guess maybe I'm
we're blessed to have him, and it sounds like he's definitely going to be joining the show again in the future. Hopefully we can make it work. Doing the remote from Kissimmee in a week or two. So
it's been a great year, Bryce. We've gone through a little bit of stuff and some change, and I've tried a couple other things that have happened co-host wise, and we are going to take this holiday break, and we're going to, right now, this is a makeshift studio. We're going to break it down. Bought some property behind our shop here, and we've been building a studio. We've got the AC in, we've got the walls painted. We're finalizing some of that. We're going to make a permanent move, what we hope is permanent for quite a while, for the American Car Classics radio show and podcast. And we're going to get in there and create a lot of new content. I think that we're going to take a little hiatus during this holiday break and maybe get back on in mid to late January. But we're going to line up some great people to talk to. We're going to be going video chat. We're going to be doing, I think, a lot more. And we're going to try to learn what it is that people want us to bring to them to keep this show vibrant and on page where we want it to be.
Yes. Again, that phone number that you got on screen, not just for the trivia question or trying to get those tickets to Mecum Kissimmee, but any kind of feedback. If you have a tech talk question, we haven't done those for a few weeks now, but that's something we love to do. If you've got a question about any of the stuff that we're talking about, we would love to hear from you and talk about it on air. Because the whole point of this is to create a product that is valuable to all of you out there who are looking for something to watch, who love cars and can't get enough car content. So that is what we are developing continuously and attempting to deliver on a weekly basis.
Yeah, we want to bring news when it comes up, and one of our first shows next year is going to be a lot of news. We're going EV. And we're going to talk a lot about that on this one show because I think that the tide is turning. I think there's a lot of format for us to fit into 1 hour about this going on, this global pandemic of EV. I mean, honestly,
it's a scourge.
We could take that sideways. For hours.
I think I've mentioned this before. I do a lot of sim racing.
You do,
and one of the cars I took out and was running laps with was this exotic EV sports car called the Batista. And, you know, it only has one gear. You step on the gas and it goes.
Right.
And one of the things I realized in terms of racing, the downshift is really important when you're cornering. It gives you the engine braking and it gives you stability when you're trying to go fast through a corner.
Yeah.
EVs don't have that. So I hated driving this thing, even though it was fun, and the sound it makes is awful. It sounds like a horror film. Yeah,
there have been a lot of issues with it, and I think that we're gonna turn some heads when we talk about all the stuff that's been going on, and we're going to be waiting for a couple of big manufacturers that have jumped onto this kind of big and see what their year-end numbers were and where they're headed with some of this, because I believe there's going to be a change with it all.
Yeah, it's already changing, and you know, this is just to allude to things we'll be covering more in depth later. But
yeah,
I don't know if you noticed the next thing that's coming, and they're already starting to light it up, is hydrogen.
Yeah, this is exciting. Hydrogen I can deal with.
Well, at least the engine makes a sound that we're familiar with.
It does. But these things, and they're kind of exotic right now. I think that as technology goes into, they're not affordable for you or I.
No, not currently, but nothing ever is when it's first being developed. I mean, flat panel TVs were $5,000, $10,000.
Yeah, you start with a concept.
So yeah, lots of exciting things to cover next year. But you know, I just want to thank you, Kenny. I really enjoy working on your show, and I think we make a great team.
Yes, sir.
And you know, it's just to the viewers out there. This is Kenny's passion. He loves doing the show, and he's the driving force behind it. So,
you know, I didn't start the show. This show was started by Keith McDonald and Dick Arbitel and a couple other guys.
Oh, I didn't know Dick was involved.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so I'm going to talk about that more too. But this show was started almost 12 years ago in Vero Beach, and I got to know Keith through Mike Carano, who was a host on the show, and he got to know me through the car shows I was putting on, representing Dolphin Auto, and they brought me on as a guest a couple times. Keith loved my enthusiasm. When people came on, I asked some questions that were spot on. And the people who interviewed, they would be like, great question stuff. So he really felt passionate about me when he put his self into retirement to turn the show over to me and trusted me to do all that. We've gone through some issues and some problems. We've left radio. I like this so much better. Not that we're on the internet and we're free to drop F-bombs or go political or whatever we think we might need to do, but that it gives us the range of America. And even though you can be on a radio and still do Facebook and podcasts, you are held to a certain something on that. And
it's hard to look at a car through the radio.
Amen.
Meaning,
amen. But we're going to say the phone number because there are podcasts that are audio. So 772-584-1048. That's 772-584-1048. And this is our hotline here. And I want to thank Brian Glaze. He is my Daytona Beach reporter that comes on after every Daytona 500 and the summer race in Daytona. And after what we learned this year, Bryce was you and he could probably talk for hours about the IMSA and the GT prototype and all these cars that come out. I've never been the biggest fan of all that. Not that I'm not a fan. I've never followed it viciously. I was a NASCAR guy. born and raised with Dale Earnhardt and just all that stuff. So
well, we'll get you doing IMSA race one of these days, and I have a feeling the light bulb will go on.
But we want to thank Brian because he brings us some good interviews and some good take on stuff when very expensive cars catch fire on the track and all that too. Of course, everybody at Mecum, John Kraman and Matt Avery and David Morton for bringing those guys to us and doing. Like I said, I get to go see Greg Billings, who provides us with all of our music. Unselfishly, as a good friend, he allowed us to use his music to have on this show, and it gets me jazzed up and going for this. I am a music guy by heart. I would not be here today if it wasn't for music, and Greg is a hell of a friend and a hell of a guy and a hell of a musician, and I get to go see him this Friday, and I'm happy to do that. He's a little bit under the weather, so Greg, continue taking the good medicine and get better so you can get out there and bust a move for me. What else, man? I don't know. I am passionate about this, Bryce, and I do love it. And I couldn't do it without you, and I wouldn't want to. You're a great dude and bartender by night, and he comes in here and is the mild-mannered business operator during the day, and I love it to pieces. So, everybody, we do hope that you like this, and I want to know what we can do to bring something that you are thinking about. So, I don't know if Bryce can reach over and get my card. I don't want to say the email wrong. Do you know it, Bryce? You can't get it. I'm going to get up and walk it. You want me to? I'm going to get up and walk it. He's got it. All right. So we're kind of unrefined sometimes, but that's all right. So was Howard Stern once. So
flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
AmericanCarClassics@yahoo.com.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then our hotline, and you can, of course, reach out and put comments on there. And again, how we grow our algorithms. Bryce, this is your area of expertise. Algorithms start with as simple as a hello, as a...
Well, the main thing we would like to see improve moving forward is just the feedback. And that's either on the hotline here or leave a comment below the video when you're watching it on YouTube.
Yep. And Facebook, on our,
yep,
on our
we plan on going into Rumble.
Yeah, and we've got a Facebook page and a group and all that on Facebook, and the podcast, of course, everything's going to be growing a bit more. I think that we're going to be able to bring a couple of new sponsorships into the gamut. We always want to say love and appreciation. I am supported strongly by Jasper Engines and Transmissions and Jacob Fairchild, our local area sales rep, who's an incredible guy, and the great family of O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is Lisa is our main girl in Sebastian, and Don is my main guy for everything that I ever want to know, and I'm blessed to be able to see him every week when he comes in, shakes my hand, gives me a hug, and talks about his Mustang that he's building and all this other stuff. We're all great car guys, and when you get together, I don't care what's going on in the world, I don't care what's going on with your group, I don't care what's going on with the people in your lives. When you go to a car show, when you're around these things, it's a thing of peace.
It's a world that has not been affected by the problems of modernity the same way that so many other aspects of life have. Yeah, when you're at a track, when you're at a car show, cars are something that everybody can agree on, even if they would be at each other's throats if the conversation drifted into politics or whatever.
Right.
And that's something that's great about it. It will never be anything where you have, let's just say, people given certain results based on how they were born rather than how they can drive or what kind of car they're bringing. So it's a very unique world, and I feel blessed to be involved with it.
Yeah, if you saw my daily beater that I drive around, you wouldn't know that I had two pennies to scratch together or anything else that I was even knew what a carburetor was or a wheel bearing or anything else. I kind of like it that way. But when I get in one of my cars, it changes my attitude. This is why I love taking the Nova on long trips. A lot of people don't want to drive their cars. A lot of people can't drive their cars. They overheat, whatever, something maybe wasn't done right. But I get to do this, and we're building a car right now for a guy that's getting ready to do Sick Week. And if you don't know what Sick Week is, look it up. 5 races in 5 days. Bradenton, Orlando, Atlanta, back to Orlando and back to Bradenton, Florida. You drive your car there, you go through checkpoints, you drag race your car, and then you get in your car and you drive it to the next event the next day. And it's 1,000 miles, and it is incredible, the area. We're going to go out to this. It is January 28th, Bryce. We're going to go to Orlando on the 29th and watch them come in and race that day, and that's going to be great to cover. And this car that we're building is a 58 Oldsmobile, and we will highlight that there too. It's going to be great. So I'm excited about the new year.
Me too.
I'm excited about everything we've got to do. Melissa Dunn Weiss with the Henry Dana Foundation. I thank you so much for speaking up and making everything that happened to your family that sucked power for people that don't have to go through this alone. I'm talking about depression, people. The holidays, they get hard for people. I battle it myself.
Yeah, get out there, be around other people. Don't let yourself isolate. Don't let yourself succumb to the temptation to just take the easy path and just stay in the recliner at home. Christmas time is about others, and it's about giving.
Amen.
And above all, it's about Jesus Christ.
Amen. Amen. We love the Lord Jesus Christ. We are in Florida, so we're tend towards the Republican side of life, but we try to just let everybody be themselves. We deal a lot with the United States military, which we are strong tenfold with the veterans. I asked Tiana to please come on this show. Her voice is a little scratchy, so she couldn't, and she would bring a lot to this conversation in all of it, because she deals with me on a daily basis as to what it's like to keep going enthusiastically every day when sometimes you get kicked right in the ass. But we do celebrate every day as a blessing. We're blessed to be here. We're blessed to live in the freest country in the world, and just so happy about it all. So please do talk to somebody. Get out there. If you don't know who to call, 772-584-1048. Leave me a message. I'll call you back on my personal cell.
And Kenny's serious about that.
I'm dead fucking serious. I swear to God. I want to thank Todd Byron, and we'll go ahead and put his flyer up. And we were talking about Dick Arbitel earlier. Todd Byron, when we first started this, I got to meet Todd. I knew who he was. And you see that Pontiac right there? Dolphin Auto painted that car. Damn right. That's Gary McDonald's car. Hey, so Todd Byron, we moved when we left the radio. We moved out to his house. I shot a video one time, a little reel about what was coming, and I got to call it the House of Byron. And I think it's kind of stuck, and I'm really proud to say that was something that just came on the fly. And I remember recording it, and Steve was there, and we had rollers in our hands, we're painting, and I said it, and they both chuckled, but I remember Todd chuckling, and I think that was just something that kind of stuck, and I'm glad. So this Dick Arbitel Memorial New Year Rod Run, drive fast, take chances. I believe that was something that Dick might have said. I didn't know this guy. I wish I had. Along with Henry Dana. Dick passed away from cancer. He was a great friend of Todd's. We are great friends with Rich Arbitel, Dick's son. We are, Bryce, we're going to be talking to Rich next week in person about sponsoring his race car next year.
Cool.
Yep. So we've already got that going on in the works, and he's agreed to come out and talk to us about that before the new year. So this run, Monday, January 1st, 2024, this is Todd's third year in a row of doing this. Dick used to have a New Year's Day rod run, and it starts out in Vero on Highway 60 at Cracker Barrel. They open at 7. We get there 7:30, 8 o'clock. We eat. We leave by 10 o'clock. Todd and his wife, Julie, they are great people, and they are out there, and it's a hustle. I'm used to putting on these big car shows and do all this. I try to help out where I can, but this is their gig, and they handle it. I bring the megaphone so everybody can be heard, but that's about it. And you get to go do this, get in your car, and if you come out and you're not driving a hot rod, something classic car or something, bring your car. We don't care, man. Hang out at the end.
I drove my Toyota Camry out there last year.
Hang out at the end, get footage, submit it to us. We'll put this on. It is a lot of fun to see everyone that comes out. But we drive from Highway 60 in Vero about 12 miles. We drive maybe a little bit more, 14 miles. We drive out to the Riverview Park in Sebastian. We get there around 10:40, 10:45. We hang out for 20, 30 minutes. And then we get back in our cars. We drive south on US 1 to Abasso, out to Highway 510. We drop over this big giant bridge into these $1 million homes, and we invade their neighborhood and drive down US 1 or A1A at about 35 miles an hour. And we drive all the way back to Riverside Park in Vero, where the AACA of Vero Beach puts on the hell of a big car show every March. We used to call it Under the Oaks, and now it's changed a bit name-wise. So that is a great event. We go there. We get to hang out, shoot the shit a little bit more, see people that you haven't seen all year long, and do all that. And then we head out to the House of Byron, where Todd puts on a great event.
Great spread, beautiful property.
Yeah, the little farm going on, and the cookout. The food is absolutely great. This year he's going to be doing some 50-50 stuff that's going to benefit some people that are in need, that are battling cancer, and that will be all in Dick's name as well. So I'm excited for it and ready, and I hope that we all get to celebrate that together safely. The only way we can do that is if everybody stays safe during the holiday. I do hope that everybody has a blessed Christmas, a safe New Year. Celebrate with somebody that you love, that you care about. Celebrate that you're alive and well. Celebrate that there's an election next year. Celebrate whatever you need to, but care about somebody, and give something to somebody if it looks like they need it. You never know what that can do for yourself. So, Bryce, I love you. I appreciate you so much.
Love you too, brother.
Thank you a ton, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. And stay strong, man. Stay strong. That's all we got. All right? Take care.